Let's go into some of the sugyas that are nageya to Shevuos haba aleinu le'tova. I want to discuss some of the halachos, some of the Minhagim, some of the things that we do, which I think is important for us to understand why we do the things that we do. So hopefully when we do them, they can have a little bit more meaning to them. Be'ezah Hashem. So let's begin with today. It's Erev Rosh Chodesh Sivan. So Erev Rosh Chodesh is a zman brought down in the Sfarim HaKadoshim for tshuva, tefillah, and staka. The Shlach Kodesh brings that down. The Chassam Sofer says today specifically Erev Rosh Chodesh Sivan. Tonight's Rosh Chodesh Avada. Today is Erev Rosh Chodesh. So the Heilige Chassam Sofer, today is a segula for tshuva. You want to do tshuva? Today is the day. Special siyata d'shmaya for a person to do tshuva today. Of course, we know there's the famous tefillah from the Heilige Shlach Kodesh. I printed it and put it outside with the English as well, that you should all say to have children and that you should get nachas from those children and they should get nachas to Rabbeinu Shalom. So daven, tefillah is right outside my door of my office over there. It's in Hebrew and English. It's kedai for a person to say it. By the way, tonight or tomorrow, Rosh Chodesh Sivan is the day that Klal Yisrael actually arrived at Har Sinai in order to makabel the Torah, which means that Rosh Chodesh tomorrow is a day for a person musugal, special scholar, to daven to be makabel all Torah mitzvahs. If you want to makabel the yoke of Torah mitzvahs, Rosh Chodesh Sivan, because that's the day that Klal Yisrael arrived at Har Sinai in order to makabel the Torah. In the Mishnah Berurah, we mentioned this yesterday, Tov Chav Tes, the Mishnah Berurah says that tonight, tomorrow, Rosh Chodesh is also the day that a person is meant to start learning Halachos Shevuos, which is also important from Rosh Chodesh all the way until Yom Tov. You don't have that many days, but you can chaperein and learn a bit of Halachos Yom Tov. We have English Sfarim as well in the Beis Medrash. If you didn't manage to get to the Sheh yesterday, or we didn't listen to it, or we didn't cover most of it anyway, you can go listen to Hilchos Yom Tov. I'm sure there are other Shurim. I'm sure there's Gevaldige Sfarim as well. So Rabbi Say, the days between Rosh Chodesh and Shevuos are Yemei Simcha, right? Oh, it's an amazing time. That's when Moshe Rabbeinu was getting Klal Yisrael ready to makabel the Torah, which is Yemei Simcha. So enjoy the days between Rosh Chodesh and Shevuos as those days. Now we know that one of the very famous Minhagim that Klal Yisrael have on the Yom Tov of Shevuos is to put up flowers, is to adorn the shul. People even have a minhag to do it in their own homes, to put flowers. Some people even put trees, all sorts of greeneries all over the place in that case. Now, by the way, just to note, this minhag is not mentioned anywhere in Shas. It's not mentioned anywhere in the Gemara. The Makor, the first source, is the Maril, and the Maril says Simchas Haregel. The reason that we do it is the Simcha of Yom Tov. So everybody asks, so if it's a Simcha of Yom Tov, why not doing it on Sukkos? Why not doing it on Pesach? Why dafka the Inyan of Shevuos? So the Mefarshim say Enochanami. The reason is because it doesn't say by Shevuos, doesn't say Samech. That's why I have to have extra simcha by putting the flowers up. But there's another reason, of course, which is because it's Zeichet to Har Sinai as well. Those of you, I don't think anyone was here, right? Really was here, but anybody was here when we went to Har Sinai? Right? Nobody was here, right? Nobody here right now. So we were zeichet to go. It's a machlokes where Har Sinai actually is. Some poskim or some hold that it's in Saudi Arabia. Maybe we'll make it there one day to go Yotza Alashitas. But most hold, according to the maps and history, that it is indeed in Egypt. And again, no clear, direct, exact bearing of it, but the minhag is that it's one of the mountains that we went on, and that's where the custom seems to be. And when we were there, so it's amazing. They were going from all over the world, mamish, all over the world, going up and down over there. It was an amazing thing. We took a camel 3 hours up. Right? It wasn't the lowest mountain of all. So I don't know what happened with the Uncle Moshe song, that I'm not sure. It's a tzorchin on the Uncle Moshe song. But upon him, we went up there and it was amazing. But we didn't see any trees, we didn't see much greenery, so I guess things have changed. But upon him, we, as a Zeichet Har Sinai, which was then, B'shas Kabbalah Satorah, full of trees and flowers and beautiful things, so we put in our shuls, definitely by the Bima, that's also one of them in Hagim, because by the way, just remember this, Kriyas HaTorah on Shavuos morning, I know you're tired, I know you've been up all night, and you're exhausted and you want to go to bed, but the Kriyas HaTorah with the Aseres HaDibros, we'll get to in a minute, on Shevuos morning is the highest of the highest. Ben Ish Chai talks about it, unbelievable. It's mamish as if you're being makabel the Torah, and a person's meant to be kavana during Kriyas HaTorah. Yes, you're tired, stand up, drink a coffee, do whatever you have to do, because it's Shas mamish Kabbalas HaTorah going on over there. So therefore, that's why we put the flowers over there. Now, you should just know, there's another reason also. It's a zecher to the Bikurim, right? The Mishnah tells us of Bikurim also that they used to decorate the baskets of Bikurim when they brought it up to Yerushalayim. Beautiful dancing and everything that went on over there. And the Magen Avraham brings the minhag of trees because Shevuos is the Rosh Hashanah Lepeiros Ilon with whatever, different sheetas, whatever there is. Vilna Gaon famously says to be mevatel the minhag, chukas hagoyim. It's the wrong thing to do. That's what the Goyim do. We don't do like the Goyim. As the Vilna Gaon said, so the question is, what exactly was the Vilna Gaon mevatel? Was he mevatel both Minhagim, the flowers and the trees, which is that the Aruch HaShulchan says? Most poskim hold no, he was only mevatel the trees he was worried about, but the flowers he wasn't worried about. And the minhag is taka, that we do the flowers and we do the greenery in our shuls. Some people do it in their homes as well. Another minhag, by the way, I don't think we discussed this before, possibly, maybe, is the minhag of standing up during Aseres HaDibros. Now we know that when Aseres HaDibros, everybody stands up. And there's many times during the year, Shevuos Hayam, for example, so people stand up for. What is the makor, and should it be done to stand up during Aseres HaDibros on Shevuos morning? So it starts with the Gemara in Brachos Taf Yud Beis, where the Gemara tells us that they used to say Aseres HaDibros every single morning during Shachris. In other words, if you look at some of the old Sidurim, they still have it in there. Before Pesach of the Zimmer, they have the Aseres HaDibros. And the Gemara says that they used to do that. Before davening, they would say out loud, Aseres HaDibros. And then they stopped it. You know why they stopped it? Because of the minim. Those people out there, the aprikosim, the people that are doing the wrong things and thinking the wrong things, are thinking that, so Aseres HaDibros, that's the ikar. The rest of it's just the agav. So they stopped it. So according to that, somebody asked the Rambam. There's a tshuva in the Rambam that was printed with the following question. They asked the Rambam, should we or should we not stand up for Aseres HaDibros on Shevuos morning? Because, not only Shevuos morning, also when we read it in different parashas, Yisro, Vaschan, whatever, during the year, we have the same shaila, right? We also stand up during Aseres HaDibros. So they asked the Rambam, is it the right thing to do? Number one, it's the same kasha as the Gemara. The reason they stopped it before Shachar is because people are going to think the Aseres HaDibros is the Yikah. But that's not true. It's not the Yikah. So when we stand up for Aseres HaDibros on Shevuos morning, what are we essentially giving over the message? The Yikah we stand up for Aseres HaDibros. The rest of it, agav. That's number one. Number two, this is Gavaldik, by the way. They asked the Rambam that really it's a mistake. The whole thing of standing up by Aseres HaDibros was poshut a mistake. Why is it a mistake? Because who gets the aliyah, generally speaking, of Aseres HaDibros? It's generally the Rosh Hashiva, the Rav, the Moed Asra, the Dayan, whoever it is, that's, generally he gets the aliyah. Now what happens when the Rav of the Shul stands up to get aliyah? The Olam stands up. So the question, this is the person who asked the question to the Rambam. Since the minhag came from a mistake that people would stand up for the Rav who got up to get the aliyah of Aseres HaDibros, they weren't standing up for the Aseres HaDibros, they were standing up for the Rav who got up for the aliyah of the Aseres HaDibros. So it's a mistake. That's what they asked the Rambam. The Rambam says, you're absolutely right. We have to stop this minhag. It should not be done. Do not stand up during Aseres HaDibros. That's what the Rambam paskins. The problem is that this tshuva in the Rambam was only printed much later, fairly recently, around the 1930s, which means before the Rambam, it was printed, no one knew about this Rambam's psak of not standing up during Aseres HaDibros. Came along the Chidah. The Chidah, generally, those of you that know, goes with the Rambam normally. He'd have no idea that the Rambam wrote this, and the Chidah says, Avada. Of course you should stand up during Aseres HaDibros in that case. So Rav Moshe has a tshuva, Nigus Moshe, and he says, Avada, it's okay. People do it, people stand up for other places, Chazak, also they stand up for, and Mamela people stand up for other places, Mamela you can stand up for Aseres HaDibros, so Rav Moshe Paskin, it's okay. Chacham Avadia has a tshuva in Yechavadas, and he says, don't bring a raya that the Chidah says to stand up, because if the Chidah would have known that the Rambam said you shouldn't, then the Chidah also would have said you shouldn't. So that's what Rav Avadia actually says in that case. But he says, Rav Avadia writes down that if you're worried about this problem, so stand up for the whole Kriyas HaTorah. And the Minhag Lamai says, Rav Shlomo Zalman and B'Tzalel Chacham and other poskim say, is to stand up for the Aseret Dibros. In that case, Moshe Sternberg Shlita in Chuvas Van Hogas Chelik Aleph Kuf Lamed Daled also says, if you're worried about this, maybe a few psukim before the Aseret Dibros starts, then already stand up then. This way you're not only standing up for the Aseret Dibros. So that's probably the Eitzah that we should try to follow. Yes, the minhag of all yeshivas, of all places, of all shuls, and none of the Rabbanim and Gedolim ever made a protest against it. So we do the minhag of Klal Yisrael, we stand up. However, I think it's kedai definitely to do like Rav Moshe Sternberg said, which is stand a few psukim before the Aseret Dibros starts. It's kedai to stand up. This way, you're clearly not showing that you're only doing it for the Aseret Dibros. Moving on very, very quickly is of course one of the Ikkim and Minhagim we have of Shevuos, which is eating cheese, which of course starts Lamaisa from the Maril. Tov Tzadidalet, the Ramah brings it La Halacha Lamaisa. Is they're meant to start with a milchik meal and then have a fleishik meal. Now, if it's interestingly to know, the Ramah says the whole reason of having milchiks and fleishiks is not because of the din of milchiks. I don't need the milchik shabai. What do I need? I need to have a zeicha to the shtei alechem, the two breads that were bought on Shevuos. If that's the case, two breads mean I had to have milchiks and fleishiks separate, because I can't have the same bread that I use for milk and now use it for meat. So when I have my milchik suda with my bread, of course, the suda means with bread. Now when I want to have my fleishik suda, I had to have a separate bread. So the separate bread, the shtei alechem, is now zeicha to the two breads that they brought on Shevuos the carbon. I mean, if that's the case, that's what the Ramah says. So it's not a din of the milchiks according to the Ramah. However, we know that the Mishnah Berurah and others bring many, many different reasons. I'm not going to go through all of them right now. Just one of the main reasons, for example, the Mishnah Berurah brings b'shem gadol echad. He says that after Matan Torah, this of course is the famous reason that everybody knows, now they know that hilchos shchita needs to be done. They were like, oy vay, we need knives, we need sheichtim, we need to do malicha, how do we do all these things? So Mamela, they weren't sure. That's why they ate milchiks. In that case, the Kol Boy says Torah is compared to milk, and therefore we eat it. L'kovad Torah, Mishnah Berurah brings that also. The Beis Halevi brings the famous medrash that when Moshe Rabbeinu came to get the Torah, the Malachim said no, and Hashem said yes, and Moshe Rabbeinu said yes. You do keep the Torah, you don't keep the Torah, and what happened? The Stipler famous talks about in Birchas HaPeretz also, Gvaldigad Torah, that the Maisa Moshe Rabbeinu said when you Malachim came to visit Avraham Avinu to be Barakah Choila after he got the Bris Milah, if you look at the Torah, you had milk and then meat, right? Milk and then meat. You didn't do kinuach and adocha. That's the whole kasha that everybody asked. The Stipler says there's no bishul daraisa, says there was fire going on in their throat. That's the reason why there was mavashal, the meat and the milk over there. Al Kaponim, we see that because there was an Indian of Basav V'cholah that allowed us to get the Torah, as I state in Medrash, Beis Halevi brings it. Memela, that's the reason why we do it. Many reasons also. Is there is Shimshon, Cholav is 40 days until Matan Torah. There's so many different reasons why we have it, and that's Taka the Minig. There are different minhagim that people have in Klal Yisrael. Some people have milchik sudas, and some people don't want to have milchik sudas because they want to be yotza basav yain on the Rambam B'shita, basav yain on Yontus. They have a fleishik suda, but they have a milchik kiddush, which is the minig of yeshiva over here. What we've been doing all the years is that we stay up the whole night. We have a beautiful shachris, a beautiful kriyas HaTorah, a beautiful musaf, and then we have a very nice, lavish milchik kiddush. And then I assume the olim go to sleep for a couple of hours. Then you have a fleishik suda after that, and our night suda, of course, is going to be fleishik. But do note that if you do eat milchiks and then fleishiks, obviously if you eat fleishiks then milchik, you have to wait 6 hours anyway. But if you eat milchiks and fleishiks, you need to do certain things. Like, for example, what we know, Shulchan Aruch and Yeridei Yisrael Peitas, you need to do kinuach, hadocha, netilas yadayim. That means you have to wipe out your mouth to make sure there's no residue of anything milchik there, right? You should eat something. You should do hadocha, wash it out, and then wash your hands if you used your hands to eat. If you didn't use your hands to eat, then you can get away without doing netilas yadayim. But those things are very, very important. If you wait more than an hour, there's a mokkah to be made called not to have kinuach and hadocha, especially if after chicken, whatever, not going to hilchos basav v'cholav. There's a book out there that you can look at all the halachos of kashrus the kitchen to find out all the halachos of basav v'cholav. Moving on, very quickly, the bracha on cheesecake, very, very negaya. What happens if you're eating cheesecake for a kiddush? What bracha do I make? Am I making a mazonos or am I making a shahakol? So the pashtus is, and this is for me for sure, why are you eating it? You're eating it for the cheese. No one's eating it for the mazonos. The reason that they put the mazonos on the bottom is just so it should be chal the din cake. Otherwise, it's not got a din cheese cake. It needs to have, otherwise it's a slab of cheese. Here, go eat a piece of cheese, which you could eat also. But if they're putting a piece of mazonis under it, it's not really for the mazonis shaboy. We know the Mishnah tells us in Brachos, Kol sheyesh bar, if there's mazonis, it always wins, even though it's not the ikar enachanami. But over here, it's there just to hold it up. Now, if there's a very thick layer of mazonis, so maybe that will be different. In other words, if a thick layer of cake, check out the cheesecake before. It is a thick layer of cake, of mazonis cake, and then cheese on top. Could be then it's got a din of one mazonis for the whole thing. Als hilchas ekav toffel in a Orachaim 7 ration base, and therefore you'd have to make a mazonis on the whole thing. Especially if you buy bought cheesecake. It depends how much you pay, by the way. If you pay a lot of money, it's probably real cheese. If you don't pay so much money, it's probably a lot of flour mixed within the cheese, which basically means even the cheesecake is better than a cake with a cheese flavoring. So you have to know how it's made and how much the layer of the mazonis is in that case. But generally speaking, you will be making a shakal unless there's a very thick layer of mazonis on the bottom, or unless it's got flour mixed inside. So do check that up to make sure you know what you're doing. Last thing Rabbi said for today is, of course, the Heilige Minhag that the Magen Avraham brings is to stay up all night. Zohar Kodesh brings this, of course, and this is a very, very famous Zohar that the Magen Avraham brings, and it's very, very important to do this because we know in Masakin what Klal Yisrael didn't do, and that is they didn't stay up, they slept in, and therefore in order to make sure that we don't make the same mistake, we stay up the whole night. That's one reason. There's many other reasons, of course, as to show our excitement to be Mekabel the Torah, we're waiting to Mekabel the Torah, whatever it is that we're doing, it's very, very important to make sure that you don't Mevatel Torah, right? The Arizal brings down that anybody that learns the entire night, no batola. It is guaranteed, not me, Rabbi Isai, the Arizal says it, it is guaranteed that you will live out the year unharmed. So if you want a skula to be safe, well, and healthy the whole year, don't Mevatel Torah. We've had boys in yeshiva that were makabel on themselves from the moment of benching. Some people even did it for Mariv, if I'm not mistaken. But for sure, from benching until Shachris begins, they don't say a word outside Torah. They don't say a word outside. We had boys that did that. I'm telling you, Rabbi Sai, we saw incredible results from those boys. I can tell you, because I saw those boys afterwards. Wow. So if you want to makabel, Chaparine, every moment on Shevuos is so precious, so much that you can accomplish over there. Whether you should say Tikkun El Shevuos, or whether you should learn Baba Metzia, whatever it is, whatever your minhag is, or whatever you want to do, whatever you feel like you want to do, is absolutely fine whatsoever, no problem whatsoever. But even if you're staying up, remember, the morning after Shachris, when we daven, is so beautiful, it's so important. First of all, you got the Heilige Ava Rabbah. By the tzaddikim, they used to say the Ava Rabbah would take hours and hours. In fact, the Blusha Rebbe episode used to say that by my Rebbe it was 7 hours the Ava Rabbah. We're talking about the one paragraph of the Ava Rabbah, 7 hours. You go today, you go to Rav Tzimaya on Shevuos morning, I don't know, it's between 45 minutes and an hour and a half, I think, is his just Ava Rabbah. Right? If you look at the tefillah of Ava Rabbah on Shevuos morning, and Be'etzem it's every single day that we say it, Ava Soilem, Ava Rabbah, whatever the minhag is, Ashkenaz, Sfard, it's irrelevant, it's the same davening, it's the same words inside. Just the words are so beautiful. You're asking the Rabbeinu Shalom for everything you will ever need in Ruchnias, for Torah, for Yiddish Yerushalayim, for mitzvahs, Ava, Yira, everything's in there, Rabbi Sai. Chaparah in the Ava Rabbah Shevuos morning, it is very, very heilig. The Mishnah Berurah says, we say Hallel on Yom Tov. Zuk the Mishnah Berurah, it's Kekriyas HaMegillah. Just like the Megillah on Purim, every word makes a difference. The Hallel, says the Chofetz Chaim, on Shevuos morning is Kekriyas HaMegillah. Chaparah, every moment, the koich of tefillah on Shevuos. And you're tired, you've been up the whole night, I get it. But push yourself, that one push. Because the Kabbalah said Torah, the Kabbalah's old Malchus Shemayim, the Kabbalah's old Torah that you can have on the night of Shevuos, on the morning of davening, is so incredible that you have to utilize that. I just want to finish with one last gewaldige Maisa. Listen to this Maisa. It's connected, but it showed us the inyan of Midas in an amazing way, which of course is that what we're working on every single day from Pesach all the way to Shavuos is our personal Midas. That's why people learn Pirkei Avos, v'chulei. The Stipler had a minhag to eat milchik on Shavuos night. That was the minhag of the Stipler. Brought down very clearly in the Sfarim. That was his minhag. Shavuos night, he ate milchik, right? Brought down, if you eat fleischik, it's a bit harder to learn because you get tired, sluggish. You eat milchik, it can help a person. That's what the Stipler's minhag was. He ate milchik on Shavuos night. The first Shevuos of Reb Chaim Kanievsky Zatzal's life when he was married to Rebbetzin Bat Sheva. The first Shevuos, the Rebbetzin cooked a fleischig Suda for the night Suda because that's what she saw in her home in Rabbi Elisha's house. She saw in her home, Rabbi Elisha had meat on the first night Shevuos, night of Shevuos, so that's what she cooked for her husband, Reb Chaim. That's what happened. Reb Chaim said nothing. Zero. He didn't say a word. 60 years passed. 60 years. The first Shevuos after his Rebbetzin left this world, he instructed his Bnei Beiso, the people in the household, whoever was cooking, looking after his meals, whatever it was, please make me a milchig Suda for Shevuos by night. And they were like, Rebbe, we've been in this house for years. You always eat fleischiks on Shevuos night. Why are you changing? He said, I'll be honest with you. My minhag is for my father, is to eat milchiks. My wife made fleischiks. For 60 years I didn't say anything. I didn't want to disturb her, didn't want to upset her in any way, shape or form. Now I can go back to my original minhag, even though he said for 60 years, he said, you know how hard it was for me to learn. I eat meat at night. It was extremely difficult for me to stay up. But to mitzvah somebody else, to make someone else feel bad, this I didn't want to do. This I didn't want to do. That's the gadlus. These are Gedolei Olam, Rabbi said. Now we understand why these are the Gedolei Ador. When you work on your midas and you don't want to upset somebody else, you don't want to embarrass somebody else, you don't want to mitzvah somebody else, that's a gadol. And that's applying to every single one of us in our small little way to try and recognize what we could do for somebody else. Be'ez Hashem, we should be zocher to keep all these minhagim and have a wonderful Yom Tov.